The only megacity in the western part of the United States has a great climate and a unique history of growth based on the ability to move around by car. There is no other place on Earth like it. This beautiful, diverse city is one of the most famous places in the world because it sets trends. Its population grew from 100,000 to more than 15 million in just over a century, making it one of the most important and successful cities of the 20th century. But this amazing boom helped some people much more than others, and it has changed the natural environment in a way that has never been seen before in human history. This is Los Angeles, the biggest city in California. The Chumash and Tongva were the first people to live in the area along the Los Angeles River. It was claimed by Spain in 1781, and 11 families from what is now the Mexican state of Sinaloa moved to live there. El Pueblo de Los Angeles was the second Spanish settlement in California. It was started by 44 people, most of whom were of African descent. 40 years later, when the Mexican government took over, it was still a small town. This was right after Mexico got its independence from Spain. The Catholic mission system was gone, and the culture of wealthy rancheros who raised cattle took its place. A few years later, though, the U.S. won the Mexican-American War, and in 1848, California became an official U.S. territory. When gold was found in the north, it made news all over the country. With so many new people and so much lawlessness, the people who lived there really wanted the stability that came with being an official American state. But before the U.S. Congress could do anything, the delegates at California's Constitutional Convention took it upon themselves to solve the two most difficult problems facing any new state at the time. First, they decided where their own borders would be. Then, they voted unanimously to join the Union as a free state when it came to the question of slavery. As part of the Compromise of 1850, Congress was so eager to get such a large, resource-rich area and extend the Union to the Pacific that they agreed to California's terms and gave them statehood in record time. After bigger problems with security and government were solved, the small town on the Los Angeles River grew quickly and had more than 100,000 people by 1900. The building of two major railroads, the Continental and Santa Fe, made it easier for people and goods to travel long distances on the ground. The Transcontinental connected Los Angeles and San Francisco, so tired gold rushers could come back south, and the Santa Fe connected Los Angeles to Chicago, making it easier for people and goods to travel long distances on the ground. Oil was one of the main industries that brought people to Los Angeles. By 1923, California was the biggest oil producer in the country and produced a quarter of the world's oil. Since it was always sunny in Hollywood, movies could be made all year long. By 1921, all of the big studios were in Los Angeles, and 80% of the world's movies were made there. California is also a great place for farming, and by the first half of the 20th century, Los Angeles County was one of the most valuable places to grow crops in the United States. The only thing holding the area back was that it didn't have enough water. So in 1907, the people of Los Angeles passed a bond measure to start building an aqueduct to bring water from the Owens Valley, 233 miles away, to the south. This deal caused a lot of debate. Some desperate farmers whose fields suddenly dried up used violence to try to break up the aqueduct. But it didn't work, and it didn't matter, because LA's thirst would be satisfied. This meant that many nearby cities and towns had to join Los Angeles to get access to its water. In 1909, LA took over the valuable seaports of Wilmington and San Pedro. Between 1910 and 1940, LA took over many different areas, including Hollywood, the San Fernando Valley, and others. Los Angeles was able to grow because it had a reliable source of water for its millions of residents. But a combination of other things pushed the growth of the whole area to a whole new level, quickly turning the basin into the thriving, sprawling, one-of-a-kind megacity that is modern-day Los Angeles. The amount of land that could be built on was a big factor. Before 1900, most people in Los Angeles walked or took a horse-drawn carriage to get around. To show what I mean, here's Belle Collins, who grew up in Los Angeles in the 1880s, and none of the roads were paved, so they were dusty and muddy in the summer. Around the turn of the 20th century, transportation in Los Angeles changed a lot. The electric trolley, which was also called a streetcar or an interurban, was fast, cheap, and reliable, and it took people off those dirty, bumpy roads. One man in particular had the right combination of railroad experience and money to change the whole area. Those trolley speculators who came before Huntington built trolleys between two fixed points, Town A and Town B, because there was demand for transportation between the two towns. That makes sense. Huntington has so much money that he doesn't need the other town yet. He'd made lines that went nowhere, then give them a name and a sign, and then build a community in those places where public transportation is easy to get to. Greater Los Angeles had the biggest streetcar system in the world by the 1920s. Hundreds of small cities, towns, and villages were linked to a large network by 1,100 miles of line. In a strange way, the streetcar's popularity helped speed up its demise. As the size of the system grew, it got more complicated and clogged up. Since the lines were privately owned, they weren't kept up as well as public mass transit in other big cities. And as people got stuck in traffic more often, they watched with envy as the newest transportation innovations zoomed by. When the mass-produced car came along, people were freed from the tyranny of the fixed track. They could go wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Los Angeles also changed because of the Great Depression. In 1934, all of the new homes built in the U.S. were only worth $227 million, a drop of 92% since 1928. As part of his New Deal, President Roosevelt and a Congress controlled by the Democrats set up the Federal Housing Administration to get the economy going again. The FHA offered mortgage insurance to protect lenders from losing money when a homeowner didn't pay their mortgage. This took away one of the riskiest parts of lending, which meant that banks could give out home loans to a lot more people and at much lower rates. It's hard to say enough about how important the FHA was and is to helping people build homes in the United States. Consider this: before the FHA, you had to put down half the price of a home to buy it. Now, you only have to put down 10 to 20%, and the time it took to pay it back was only 3 to 5 years. Before the FHA, only 1 in 10 American households owned the homes they lived in. But 65 years after the FHA created, over 68% of American households did. This made a big difference in Los Angeles because there was so much land to build on. With the dream of owning a detached home within reach for middle-class workers in LA's booming aircraft, rubber, automotive, and oil industries, the county's population grew to more than 2 million people before the Second World War. The San Fernando Valley became the fastest-growing area in the United States because of how cheap it was to live there. The population doubled in the 1940s, and then doubled again in the 1950s, when there was over 700,000 people living there. On the other side of Los Angeles is a place called Tomorrow's City today, or Lakewood. The first suburban-style homes were built. Today, anyone who lives in America's city is familiar with this style. Every day, 4,000 workers built at least 50 homes in a giant outdoor assembly line. That means that about one house was finished every 10 minutes. Unfortunately, the FHA did a lot more than just start a building boom. By only insuring certain kinds of homes, it affected what kind of houses were built, where they were built, and even who bought them. It gave more weight to new, detached houses on wide streets and cul-de-sacs. It also gave more weight to places near arterial roads than to public transportation. I hope you enjoyed the video. We will be back soon with more amazing content, so stay tuned. And don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the latest updates. Thanks for watching.